Exactly 1 year into Detroit's bankruptcy, plus the debate over water. Also, Election 2014, a closer look at the 14th and 11th congressional races before the primary. And should we ban fireworks again? It's all coming up right now on MiWeek.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta.
Hi there and welcome to MiWeek. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Christy McDonald. Big show tonight, exactly 1 year since Detroit filed for Chapter 9. A look at where we are. Plus the debate over water shutoffs in the city and why it reached bankruptcy court this week. Also coming up for you tonight, Election 2014, the spotlight on 3 races, the 14th and 11th congressional districts, and the Wayne County executive race, since we are getting so close to the primary now. And fireworks and Republican spies. We'll get to it all coming up for you tonight. But we do start with Election 2014, less than 3 weeks until the primary, and there are some interesting momentum shifts in races, according to new polls this week. Let's go ahead and take a look to the 14th congressional district we go. For the Democrats, where this race is expected to be decided. Hanson Clark leads with 39%, followed by Southfield Mayor Brenda Lawrence at 28%, State Rep Rudy Hobbs 20%, and Burgess Foster at 4%. And this poll was done by Epic MRA. We are going to start with this race tonight and bring in our MiWeek contributors, Nolan Finley from the Detroit News and Stephen Henderson from the Detroit Free Press. Gentlemen, nothing like starting with a little election. We are so close to the primary.
Let the politics begin.
All right, so let's go to the 14th congressional district. Is there any surprise that Hanson Clark has jumped this far out in this latest poll? And we're getting close.
No, I mean, he has sort of default incumbent status there. He was the congressman in that area. People recognize the name. He did quite well in his run against Carolyn Kilpatrick. I think it's not a surprise, but I still think that race is wide open. I'm not sure Hanson Clark's walking away with it. I think either Hobbs or Lawrence could come out on top of that race.
All right, do you agree that Nolan says this is wide open still?
I'm not sure it's wide open. I mean, that's a nice big lead 3 weeks from the primary, 10, 11 points over the primary or the most familiar candidate in Oakland County. And that's what is surprising to me. I mean, yeah, Hanson used to represent that district, but it was a Detroit district when he represented it. And as soon as it was redrawn to include Oakland County, he got beaten pretty badly. I mean, Gary Peters really stuck it to him 2 years ago, mostly by carrying that Oakland County vote. This poll would suggest that perhaps Hanson has more truck in Oakland County than we thought he did, because there are 2 Oakland County candidates in that race this time, Brenda Lawrence and Rudy Hobbs. So that caught me a little
That may be
by
what's
surprise.
at work here, Steve. I mean, they may be splitting up that Oakland County vote,
that's possible,
and he's
right?
still keeping his strength in Detroit and Wayne County. But he's got no money. I mean, Hanson Clark has no money. There'll be a lot of money spent in these last, 2-3 weeks.
And when you say a lot of money, how much are you talking about?
Well, it's not like, certainly
Tens of
not
thousands.
like it. Yeah, I mean, it's not anything like you're seeing, say, in the 11th district. But there's Hobbs and Lawrence were both fairly well funded.
Brenda's got a lot of national money from.
And Hobbs is picking up a lot of endorsements as well.
Yeah.
So he's getting some union money.
Now, the other thing that's interesting in this race is the movement. The last poll showed Rudy Hobbs at 6%. Now he's at 20%.
That's a huge jump.
That is a very big jump.
And I know that you can only take polls. I mean, you've got to gauge it.
But I think that does say something about momentum. That the movement in the race is perhaps toward him. Now, is that coming from Brenda's side of the ledger or from Hanson Clark's side of the ledger? Who knows? But that's a big jump, and if he can if he can maintain that kind of shift, maybe he gets ahead.
Let me ask you this. You guys both did a candidate forum a short time ago.
Oh, a debate,
Yeah,
right,
in the 14th. So what were the main issues that were being brought up, and what was your perception of how the candidates were answering?
Well, I mean, this isn't like some kind of A-team here that's running for this office.
Well, now, why do you say that?
Okay, you've got a...
Nolan said there's no A-team anywhere. That was his column.
That's pretty well right.
No, I know, it's hard.
Okay, now explain
Okay,
why you say
all
that,
right,
because I think you have
okay.
backers of all four of
So-
these candidates that would take, you know.
We're sending one of these people to Congress, and I think while I was sitting there, and I don't know, I won't speak
Well,
for Steve.
and it was Brian Dickerson, my deputy.
Okay, right.
the staff was-
So, I mean, while I was sitting there, I'm thinking, we're going to send one of these people to Congress. None of them, you've got a congressman who sort of washed out once already. You've got a mayor, sort of a nondescript mayor, a very young lawmaker, and then there's a fourth person in the race who's a little bit, you know.
Yeah, Bird just said anything. I'm not sure I would say it's not the A-team. I mean, if you try to think of who else would you throw into that race to make it better, who lives in that district?
I don't know who lives in the district. I just know none of those four scream congressmen
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
I mean, it's four mediocre candidates, and the three top performers. There's not a whole lot of difference between them.
So let me
And
ask.
there's nothing that distinguishes these three.
So let me ask you this, Nolan.
not sure I
If
would
they
say
don't scream congressman to you, and you have one who served in Congress, you have someone who has been a mayor of a major city, and you have someone who has been a state lawmaker, then what does scream getting ready to be
I think
a congressman
it
or woman?
speaks to the political pool in Michigan. I think term limits have destroyed us. You know, almost anybody can be a legislator today. Almost anybody can become a legislative leader. We're not getting sort of the gravitas in our leaders that
I
we
will say
once
this.
But
had.
isn't that the point?
I will say
Isn't that
this,
the point
though.
that almost anybody
Yeah,
can?
no, no,
Isn't that the point of representation?
No, it's not. It shouldn't
No,
be.
it's absolutely not.
But I will say this about Rudy Hobbs, who I think is
It's going to be good someday.
you know, there's some separation between him and the others in this race. The work that he did in Sandy Levin's office, I mean, he's got a lot of experience in the sort of congressional sphere. Now, he was here in Michigan. He was not part of the Washington staff. He's also, I think, a former school board member. I mean, this is somebody who's got the kind of experience that is building toward a congressional run. It's early for him in my estimation in terms of his elected career. I mean, he's only been in the House in Lansing for, I think this is his first term. I would like to see him have more time to do that.
So you want to see growth.
But there's nothing wrong with
too early for him.
what he's done.
We're replacing those, Steve. We're replacing a congressional delegation that had a pretty weighty congressional delegation. A lot of leaders in that,
Yeah.
and many, or if not all of those, came out of a pre-term limits legislature.
That's true.
Not all, but many of them did, where they had a chance to spend 10, 12, even
Right,
20
learning
years
before you go.
learning instead of 2 years. We're about to replace, and once again, both the House and the Senate leaders in the state legislature with people probably we've never heard of.
Yeah.
And we do this every 4 to 6 years.
All right, well, let's
crazy.
move on a little bit because we're going to take a quick now look at the 11th Congressional District. Go ahead and take a look at the numbers there. Looks like Kerry Benevolio could be a one and done. The Epic MRA poll puts challenger Dave Trott ahead 53 to 31%, and that's with some significant Tea Party support for Dave Trott. And then there was just a candidate forum last night, and Kerry Benevolio wasn't even there. Are you surprised at the distance here between these two?
Well, no, not at all. I mean, Ben Fioli seems to have folded his campaign. He wasn't at the candidate forum. You don't hear anything from him. He's raised almost no money, still paying off debts from his last campaign. This guy was the accidental candidate. He won because there was nobody else on the ballot 2 years ago. Now there's somebody else on the ballot. Trott's spending a lot of money. I think he's probably spending a lot more money than he needs to win this. No, I mean, you've got a campaign, and Bentvolio has not campaigned.
Why hasn't he campaigned, Stephen?
Well, I think he doesn't have any money. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. You got to be on the air. You got to get your message out, and you need money to do it. All of the money in this race. I mean, first of all, Dave Trott has a lot of his own money to be able to spend, but he wouldn't even have needed that here because the sort of establishment, the GOP establishment, is so much more behind him than they are behind
But
Bentivolio.
Bentivolio went to Congress without an organization.
Yes, he did.
And without really any
Which is,
political or campaign experience. He sort of fell in. And
I would say,
out.
we have made quite a bit of fun of Bentivolio at times. He's turned out to be a more solid congressperson than people thought he would. He's not been nutty. He's not, the reindeer rancher kind of oddball in the job.
He's towed the party line.
He has done a lot of. He's done a lot of the things that he's supposed to do. He's shot his mouth off a couple times in a way that he probably shouldn't have. But he's in Congress. That's what people in Congress do. I think he deserves credit for having stepped up to do this when Thad McConnor imploded a few years ago. But he's not part of that GOP establishment, and they don't want him there. And Dave Trott is. So
Nolan, is it anything specific in Dave Trott's message, or is it just the fact that you're seeing Dave Trott?
He's working really hard. He's working really hard. He's an attractive candidate, one-on-one when he meets with people, when he speaks to people. I think he's a very good candidate.
He is a much more traditional congressional candidate. I mean, he's somebody you would see running for that job. Kerry Bentivolio was not. I think Dave Trott is this race is about him not being Bentivolio. It's not about him being Dave Trott.
I disagree with that somewhat because he's worked really hard to sell himself.
Well, he's somebody who could lose that seat in 2 years too. If you get another more experienced candidate, I mean, somebody who doesn't have the taint of his
2 years,
he's
going to be a congressman. He's not going to be, associated with the mortgage.
I was just going to say that seems to not have been a factor here.
He's going to have a huge war chest. I think once you win that seat, if you're going to hang on to it.
Maybe.
All right, well, let's move on and let's take a look now at the race for Wayne County Executive. It's pretty crowded, pretty competitive. The Free Press endorsed former Wayne County Sheriff Warren Evans. The Detroit News endorsed Westland Mayor Bill Wild. So I'm just going to lob that softball up here for both. Why did the Detroit News go with Bill Wild?
Well, I think the Wild's the most qualified person in the race with the best experience for the job. But there's also the reason that if you're going to, Wayne County needs a culture change. This corruption, this rottenness in Wayne County didn't start with Bob Ficano. This has been going on for decades here. It needs a culture change in the same way Detroit needed a culture change. You're not going to change the culture of Wayne County by reaching back and getting people who have been in and around Wayne County forever. And most of the other candidates are associated very deeply with Wayne County and its past. I think Bill Wild's a fresh face. He's not part of that Wayne County political establishment. I think he has the best chance of moving us beyond the dysfunction and corruption in the county.
Is that fair to really do guilt by association if Warren Evans didn't have anything to do with anything?
Warren Evans was part of the McNamara machine, and
so was Mike Duggan, and everyone's talking about look at the change that we've got in Detroit.
Exactly, but so how comfortable are you having Duggan sort of with his guy running Wayne County? I think that's a reason to be concerned.
All right, so I'm going to say you endorse Warren Evans.
Warren. He's got a lot more experience than Bill Wild actually managing large-scale organizations. I think Bill Wild is a very exciting guy, is doing really good work in Westland, which is a very small pond, but it's important. It's an important experience. He's not ready to run the county.
Why not?
Number one, it's the relationships that exist between the other electeds in Wayne County, the prosecutor, the sheriff. That is one of the biggest problems that you've got negotiating budget things and keeping those departments in line. I don't think Bill Wild is quite ready to deal with that. Warren Evans has been in that mix before. As the sheriff, was more responsible as the leader of that department than we've seen since then, and I think we'll be able to get Kim Worthy and Benny Napoleon to work together to stay within budget, and he'll also get them more money because he will cut the executive staff down significantly from what it is.
Maybe he will, maybe he won't.
That's not that's not a knock on Bill Wild. I like Bill Wild, and this was a close call for us. Warren Evans just has more experience.
But Evans was police chief too.
He was, and he was very good.
What happened there?
The crime went down. That's what the
crime went down, but he got in trouble.
He got for bad judgment on a couple of fronts.
He did.
Making a video for a reality show, but
and
could
sleeping
you
with his staff? I mean, there's judgment issues that have plagued Wayne County for years. I think it's time to move past that.
Yeah.
So who's splitting the vote here?
What do you mean? I mean, I think this was a tough race for Bill Wild to win, principally because he is from a very small, sort of out county city, and it doesn't have a lot of name recognition. But Warren will pull, I think, obviously very well in the city. And he's going to get a lot of suburban support,
but you also have 4 suburban candidates.
You do,
there, including the incumbent, Bob Ficano,
right.
And they're all from Western Wayne County.
Yeah.
So you've got Phil Kavanaugh, Kevin McNamara, Bob Ficano, Bill Wild, all sort of splitting up that Western Wayne County and downriver vote. And Warren Evans, the only Detroit candidate. It gives him a huge edge.
Gosh, would you say that that's going to be the toughest job for someone when they walk in November? Why do you, or January? Why do you want this job?
This job, yeah. I mean, there's a lot to do, and there's a lot to clean up. Evans talks about paring down the size of that Wayne County executive's staff and office and endeavor, to make more funds available for the prosecutor and the sheriff, which are those are the business ends of government in Wayne County, and they are very short on funding. I think he has more of a shot at straightening that out than anybody else does.
All right, turning now to Detroit. It was 1 year ago that Detroit filed Chapter 9. There have been hearings this week in preparation for the bankruptcy trial, and we are learning more about the investment plan in the city should the restructuring plan be approved here. The $1.4 billion would be in part used to boost the number of police officers by 12%, firefighters by 17%, but city population is expected to keep falling over the next 10 years. And there is also concern over the collection of debts to the water department. That massive shutoffs to customers owing more than $150 is too harsh, could cause a public health problem. In court this week, Judge Rhodes said it was making Detroit look bad internationally. Before we tackle the water discussion, let's just step back and take a look at, we are at the 1 year mark, and we have a better picture of where we could be now in the next couple of months.
It's looking good, I think. The vote by the retirees was key. It pushed this thing, it pushed that behind it. Now you've got just the unsecured creditors out there. They don't have much to stand on. I think they'll either take a deal or be have to live with a cram down. It looks like this thing's going to progress on the timetable Snyder and Orr laid out when it started.
What do you think, Stephen?
Yeah, no, I think we're right where we should be. There are still some hurdles. Again, Judge Rhodes has got to make, I think, perform some somewhat Herculean judicial feats to make this all look right, to go up the ladder to the appeals court. This grand bargain is a wonderful, wonderful effort, but legally it is anomalous, and he will have to explain why that's okay. Why is it okay to treat one class of creditors, namely the pensioners, better than all the other unsecureds? And that's not an easy road.
It's a key question too, because this is a precedent-setting case. We've never been through a case like this, and so everyone involved is going to be very mindful of what precedents are set for the next municipal bankruptcy.
And we do want to add that the DIA did come out yesterday and say that they were able to get the rest of the money of the $100 million that they had to raise for their end of the bargain. I want to talk about some of the paperwork that has come out with the projection that Detroit's population is going to sink down to about 610,000. Do you think that's on the mark?
Well, I mean, people are still leaving. Right. I mean, we don't know where the bottom is. Everybody's excited about the turnaround. Everybody's excited about the good things that are happening in Detroit and the positive direction. But if you're living in one of those neighborhoods that is on the verge of collapse,
what's the reason?
How long are you going to stay away? Can somebody tell you next year life's going to be better?
Well, I think it's also what they're talking about, the promises of services, the promises of this infusion of money of $1.4 billion over 10 years in trying to get more police officers on the streets and trying to get down the response time by police, more firefighters on the street, but then also redeveloping these neighborhoods once you take down some of that blight.
So there's something, it's sort of an interesting dynamic with the mayor's talk about population and how he says he wants population to be going up. at the end of his 4 years, which I think is a very unrealistic goal. What other cities have been able to accomplish, though, before they get to the point where population is actually growing, is an influx of middle-class taxpayers, people who will either rent or buy properties that yield more tax money than you would get from other properties. Now, that's somewhat controversial. People call that quote-unquote gentrification and things like that. But in other cities, what that's done is stabilize finances in a way that helps improve and provide services for everybody. And then you get to the point eventually where people are moving back in. In Baltimore, they just reported in 2010 the first population increase since I think 1950 or 60. Yeah. A very small, but it took them 10, 12 years of really big work on attracting those middle class taxpayers back into the city to get to that point, and that may be the road we're on.
Before we leave the topic of Detroit, I want to talk about the water shutoffs right now, and the fact that Judge Rhodes addressed that in bankruptcy court this week, which I thought was very interesting. Nolan, where are we? Do you agree with the statement that what the water department is doing makes Detroit look bad internationally, and that they should be doing more to warn customers before the shutoffs?
Of course not. I mean, what makes Detroit look bad is that it allows 50% of its water customers not to pay their bills. That is just pure negligence. You've got the 50% who do pay their bills now getting hit with an 11% increase. This was absolutely necessary. And what you're seeing is, you're not seeing a whole lot of people turning on the taps and nothing coming out. You're seeing a whole lot of people paying off the bills they should have been paying all along and weren't paying because there was no enforcement. There are plenty of assistance programs to help people who absolutely need help to keep their water flowing. But the city can't tolerate people not paying their taxes, not paying their water bills, and feeling like it's a lawless community where you can live off the grid, if you will.
The city can't tolerate people not paying their bills, but is there a better way to go about this, Stephen?
Well, shutting people off has got to be the absolute last resort. I mean, number one, because of the public health issue with turning water off. But yeah, I mean, the city has got to get its money. DWSD, with this $90 million hole in collections, that's one of the things that drives the deterioration of the system, which is a huge problem, which of course then forces DWSD to borrow more money, and these are the things that led us into the bankruptcy in the first place. Now, I think they could have done more to put the arm to people who were just not paying before you shut them off. But you still have, I saw some numbers this week that said, I think there's 7,500 customers who are shut off. That's a big deal, and that is not a very smart play.
But a lot of those were abandoned buildings.
They may be, right.
Not all of them were just people sitting there now can't get water. And again, they've done a very good job to craft assistant programs to help those people, but you have a certain responsibility to step up and say, I need help.
In the long run, you have to wonder whether should we still have fee-for-service water, or should water be like schools where everybody pays and everybody goes as part of your taxes or something?
That's an interesting debate. All right, it's time now for another look at headlines. All right, some other quick headlines. One lawmaker wants to make big fireworks illegal again, and Republicans are wearing spy glasses. All right, let's start off with the fireworks debate. It seems that it's come up this year, especially after a very loud 4th of July time. What do you think, Nolan?
Well, I think this has been a failed experiment. This lifting the fireworks ban has turned everybody in the state into a redneck. It's boom, boom, boom all night long. People's dogs are going crazy. Little kids are screaming. I mean, neighborhoods are becoming unlivable because of this boom, boom, boom to 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I don't know what the heck thrill these yahoos get out of standing out and going boom,
firing
boom, boom.
Mortars. I mean,
but it's making the neighborhoods unlivable.
Okay, so yahoos, rednecks were used. So,
I'm not
Stephen,
using any of those
do
words.
you agree with Nolan's "you kids get off my lawn" theory on this?
Well, I do agree with put the fireworks down, or put the mortars down, is what you ought to call these things. These are giant.
Because we're talking about the big
These are
industrial
humongous things that people are firing off, because you can get them now, and they're legal, but they are not safe, and it is not smart, and it is, it's making this into a state that I think we.
I don't give a hoot about the safe. It's the noise and
I care about the
all
safe.
night long. Well, I mean, come on. You're going to go out
If
there.
you're going to blow
and
yourself up, that's one thing.
That's
But you could blow
exactly
somebody
right.
else up with these
exactly
things.
right.
All right. And really quick, Republicans caught in a Mark Shower fundraiser wearing spy glasses, and they recorded it and then dropped the card. Is this just is this just regular politics?
I mean, it's what happens today. You've got every time a candidate is out on the stump, there's somebody from the other camp filming them. I guess they thought this would be a more clever way of doing it, but.
Yeah, right. Why do you have to hide?
10 seconds, not a bad idea.
Why do you have to hide while you do it? Didn't they learn from Watergate, like, you know, if you stumble and leave stuff, create a scandal?
I just love the spy glasses part. That's going to do it for my week. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta.